Hey comrades, my name's William Morrison and I'm your British Marxist-Leninist and anti-imperialist comrade based in Scotland. And this is episode 7 of my series on the Green Book by Muammar al-Gaddafi. This is the series where I take a video to go over each of the 28 points of the Green Book by Muammar al-Gaddafi. So this is episode 7, this is the 7th point, and this is the law of society. This is the second issue, this is the second problem that Gaddafi sees in current day society. Democracy being the first, the instrument of government being the first, and the second being the law and order of a society. What is the right way to use political power to make a law system, a legal system? So this is the law of society by Muammar al-Gaddafi. I'm just going to jump straight into it. By the way, I'm reading this book. This big book here is quite a large one. Remember that the actual book is at the end of the book. It's pretty small. It looks big, but it's actually not at all. I don't actually. This book very much confuses me. Actually, I'm not sure what's. Yeah. Anyway, this is episode 7, the law of society. Law represents the other problem, parallel to that of the instrument of government, which has not been resolved. Although it was dealt with in different periods of history, the problem still persists today. For a committee or an assembly to be empowered to draft the law of society is both invalid and undemocratic. It is also invalid and undemocratic for the law of society to be abrogated or amended by individual, a committee, or an assembly. What then is the law of society? Who drafts it, and what is its relevance to democracy? The natural law of any society is grounded in either tradition, custom, or religion. Any other attempt to draft law outside these two sources is invalid and illogical. Constitutions cannot be considered the law of society. A constitution is fundamentally a man-made positive law and lacks the natural source from which it must derive its justification. The problem of freedom in the modern age is that constitutions have become the law of societies. These constitutions are based solely on the premises of the instruments of dictatorial rule prevailing in the world today, ranging from the individual to the party. Proof of this are the differences existing in various constitutions, although human freedom is one and the same. The reason for the differences is the variation in the assumptions and values implicit in diverse instruments of government. This is how freedom becomes vulnerable under contemporary forms of government. The method by which a specific modality of government seeks to dominate the people is contained in the Constitution. The people are compelled to accept it by virtue of the laws derived from that Constitution, which is itself the product of the tendencies within particular instruments of government. The laws of the dictatorial instruments of government have replaced the natural laws, i.e., positive law has replaced natural law. Consequently, ethical standards have been confused. The human being is essentially, physically, and emotionally the same everywhere. Because of this fact, natural laws are applicable to all. However, constitutions are conventional laws. As conventional laws, do not perceive humans being equally. This view has no justification, except for the fact that it reflects the will of the instrument of government, be it that of an individual, an assembly, a class, or a party. That is why constitutions change when an alternation in the instrument of government takes place, indicating that a constitution is not natural law, but reflects the drive of the instrument of government to serve its own purpose. The abrogation of natural laws from human societies and their replacement by conventional laws is the fundamental danger that threatens freedom. Any ruling system must be made subservient to natural laws, not the reverse. The fundamental law of society must not be subject to historical drafting or composition. Its importance lies in being the decisive criterion in light of which truth and falsehood, right and wrong, and individual rights and duties can be judged. Freedom is threatened unless society adheres to the sacred law with established rules that are not subject to alternation or change by any instrument of government. It is rather the responsibility of the instrument of government to adhere to the laws of society. Unfortunately, People the world over are currently ruled by man-made laws that can be changed or abrogated, depending upon the struggle for power among competing forms of government. Conducting plebiscites on constitutions is often insufficient. Plebiscites are essentially a counterfeit of democracy, since a yes or no is only the options. Moreover, under man-made law, people are compelled to vote on these plebiscites. Conducting a plebiscite on a constitution does not necessarily make the constitution the law of society. In other words, the status of the constitution will not be altered by a plebiscite. It will remain no more than the subject of a plebiscite. The law of society is an internal human heritage that does not belong only to the living. Therefore, drafting a constitution or conducting a plebiscite on it is mockery. The catalogues of man-made laws emanating from man-made constitutions are fraught with physical penalties directed against human beings, while tradition contains few such measures. Tradition lays down moral, non-physical penalties that conform to the intrinsic nature of humanity. Religion contains tradition and absorbs it. And tradition is a manifestation of the natural life of people. Its teachings comprise basic social guidelines and answers to the fundamental question of existence. Most physical penalties are deferred to a future judgment. This is the more appropriate law, affording due respect to the human being. Religion does not provide for prompt penalties, save in certain compelling instances necessary to the well-being of society. Religion contains tradition, and tradition is an expression of the natural life of the people. Therefore, religion is an affirmation of natural laws, which are discerned therein. Laws which are not premised on religion and tradition are merely an intervention by man to be used against his fellow man. Consequently, such laws are invalid because they do not emanate from the natural source of tradition and religion. So that was that, comrades. That was the 7th point in the Green Book, and that was the law of society. There's a lot to dissect here. I won't take up too much of your time, but yeah, I think this chapter here, this part here, was heavily influenced by Muammar al-Gaddafi's Islamic teachings. Of course, Muammar al-Gaddafi was a Muslim. He was a very prompt Muslim. He was a very proud follower of Islam. And yeah, it sounds like his government of people, of mortals, won't be tough on crime. Their religions teach them that there will be a higher judgment later on in their life. In the afterlife, they will be punished. So if somebody has been bad in their life and have been immoral or bad and have done things against the teachings of that religion, then they'll be punished one day. There'll be a judgment day for them when they die, and then that's when the punishment will happen. So I suppose Muammar al-Gaddafi opposes the idea of human beings punishing other human beings, because essentially he believes what right the other human beings have for what is right or wrong. Only a higher power can know that. That's what he believes. Of course, this is something I'm going to obviously depart from him, because I'm obviously an atheist. I believe in materialism. This chapter here doesn't really follow materialist lines, philosophically speaking, and I do. So this is something where we part. I think that there are only humans. I don't think that there is a higher power or God or Allah. I think that humans should supervise other human beings. There is a natural hierarchy for a reason. I'm not justifying a capitalist hierarchy, but just in natural law. And I guess that's something that he also touches on. He is opposed to constitutions making laws based on man-made artificial concepts. And he says that it confuses ethics, it confuses morals. And I guess that's true. Because, morals differ all over the world. And then obviously Western liberal democracy wants to push their idea of democracy onto other countries. You see it in the Arab Spring, when there was mass protests and riots, and this colour revolution funded by the imperialists swept through Northern Africa and the Middle East to democratize these places. And you actually see, naturally, these countries have actually reverted back to a more autocratic Islamic kind of way of life. They didn't want liberal democracy. They never wanted it. And Maybe they thought that they did. But after a while, after seeing the democracy and the multi-party systems, a lot of these countries have reverted back to Islam, a more theocratic society. And of course, I'm opposed to theocratic societies. I'm an atheist, like I just said. But this isn't about me. This is about teaching you guys about Muammar al-Gaddafi. And so yeah, he has a disdain for man-made laws. He doesn't think that artificial laws should be a thing. He thinks that society should run on the lines of natural laws. And he believes that natural laws are based in tradition and often religion. So, obviously a lot of countries have thousands and thousands of years of history. And of course, over that time, there's been an evolutionary movement within that country's history of tradition and ethics and science and technology and arts and poetry and warfare and philosophy and politics. There's been a huge evolution over thousands and thousands of years. So most countries are entrenched in tradition. And Muammar al-Gaddafi clearly believes that because that different countries have different traditions, then that should be the law of society. So I guess if he was alive today and he was looking at the situation now between China and Russia and America, he would just kind of respect each three of the countries, and he would say, why don't everyone just leave each other alone? Just let sovereign states deal with their own affairs based on the traditions and customs and religiosity, per se, of that country. Respect China's 8,000 year history. Respect Russia's 1,000-year history. Respect, and of course, if you want, respect the USA and their 260-year history. Just leave sovereign states to deal with their own affairs. Don't intervene on anyone else's behalf. Just keep yourself to yourself. That's essentially what he's saying. Every country is different. So, no other country has the right to judge and tell another country that they're doing something wrong, because they're different and they're following different cultural lines. And that's fine. It's a multipolar world, I guess, he's kind of advocating for in a niche kind of way. So it's pretty cool. I am a fan of that. And one last thing is, he opposes constitutions because they differ in other countries. And the idea of human freedom should not differ, in his opinion. Because essentially we are all the same. All human beings are the same. We are all the same. And we should be free. That's a pretty universal concept. Everybody wants to be free. And we are all human beings, and he believes that we're all the same. However, within different constitutions, there's variations of definitions of freedom and definitions of human beings. And not all constitutions believe that human beings are equal. So there's a contradiction there in his eyes. And so he's opposed to constitutions because they're man-made, artificial, made-up laws. They're not based in natural laws. And the natural laws say that we're all human beings and we all aim to be free. We want to be free human beings. We don't want to be locked up by political institutions and artificial economics and war based on lies. We just want to be free and live a good life, a dignified life, and then we die, and that's it. But we want to make most of the life that we have. And these constitutions that differ in other countries, they are a barricade to that. They're an obstacle to that. So I guess that's what he was getting at. So that's kind of the three main points. The positive laws, the law and order, how we probably shouldn't be too tough on crime, and we should just let the higher powers decide who's right and who's wrong, and who was bad and who was good later on, posthumously. And don't trust constitutions. They're not a vehicle to achieve freedom for human beings. That's essentially the three takeaways here. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. The next episode is going to be part 8, and that is who supervises the conduct of society. It's an extremely short one. It's literally a paragraph. So I'll see you then.